Elder Scrolls Online was talked about at E3 during the Bethesda conference. They announced the success of the Somerset launch and announced their future ventures into Blackmarsh, working with the Argonian lore and background. Seeing the game at E3 rekindled the excitement I had when I originally bought the game back in 2016, and I was interested in how it is doing modern day. Hey guys, it's Doomed Friend, and today let's talk about Elder Scrolls Online in 2018. Elder Scrolls Online was an idea that I had wanted ever since I dove into Oblivion and eventually Skyrim. An online version of my favorite game where I could play with my friends was a concept worth hoping for. I bought the game soon after release, only to be extremely disappointed. ESO, in my opinion, was a very poor game at launch. The world was large and confusing. The game strayed from the art style, combat, and dialogue that the previous Elder Scrolls games had brought into the scene. And while it did take place way before the events of Oblivion, it seemed like they were trying to create a different backstory altogether. This was frustrating as I loved the Elder Scrolls and this was not the game I was hoping to play. Now obviously, this game wasn't meant to be the first/third person RPG open world that Skyrim and Oblivion were. This game was designed to be set up like an MMO. And me, a person with very little, if any, MMO experience, coming from a background of single player or just simply shooter games, this was a little much to take in. Not to mention, the most efficient way to travel around the map costed in-game money, and the second most efficient way costed real money. Way shrines were an alternative to fast traveling. You could use way shrines from anywhere on the map and go to any other way shrine, but if you are not traveling from a way shrine, it costs gold. And for a new player in a big world who had little gold to start, this sucked. A majority of my times was spent traveling from one location to the next. The game had, of course, mounts at launch, but the only launch mounts available costed real money and were only a little bit more efficient than just running around on foot. After having a confusing and overwhelming and overall disappointing experience 2 years ago, I had somewhat low hopes of going into this game again. I started the update, and because of me uploading a video at the exact same time, it took about a day, and then hopped in with a friend from my clan Common Blood. Neither of us had played much before coming back 2 years later, so we both just made new characters. Starting out, we were both met with tons of rewards for coming back and starting up. Experience scrolls, awesome potions, and even some free crowns to be able to buy stuff from the IRL money store. And soon after we started, our opinions changed drastically. This game had several facelifts and improvements in the 2 years I hadn't played. Quests seemed less confusing, the characters were more meaningful, and the leveling actually had benefits. Before, you would get an attribute point to level up your magicka, health, and stamina, and then you'd get a skill point either to unlock a new skill, buff an unlocked skill, or unlock a passive for your various trees. While still confusing, the ability system is much more manageable with detailed explanations of what everything is. With each level up reward, we would get skill points and attribute points. We would also get armor and weapons, and we would get sometimes kits for crafting, and at level 10 we got a free mount. This game was infinitely easier to get into as a non-MMO gamer. So what about the actual in-game content? Well, I for one have no expansions or upgrades besides the upgrade that allows you to pick any character and be part of any alliance. So I am giving this viewpoint from the perspective of a base game scrub. The content is definitely there. I have tons of quests that I've completed and tons of quests that I still have yet to do. I still find myself exploring random places and enjoying finding new things. This game also has Dungeon Finder, where you can find public dungeons and squads to go in them with you. You can go fight bosses, complete quests, and loot everything with people who have fun fighting with you. I can't say anything about PvP because I'm afraid of what I'll find in it, but I constantly see people dueling, and I have actually been challenged to a duel several times while just hanging out in cities. There is tons of content on the world map. There are tons of quests that I still have yet to pick up, and there are tons of items that I still have yet to find. There's achievements for just farming resources. There's achievements for doing pretty much everything in the game. You can really tailor your own playstyle to however you want to tailor it. A lot of times you'll find random people out in the world doing their own little quests, but the majority of the people will be hubbed around the anchors created by Molag Bal so that he can invade our world with Daedra, and the cities where you'll find lots of people just hanging out and messing around with each other. This game still has a super active community, and I find it very interesting to go into dungeons with people who are level 400 or even 700 when I'm only level 20. I got really good advice from some high level people on ways that I can build my tanky character and trees that I can go on and gear that I could use. This was incredibly interesting, especially since I have trouble figuring these things out for myself with the in-game menus. Now, there are a few complaints that I do have about this game. For one, it is extremely hard to level up certain trees. For example, for smithing, I found myself grinding for an hour just to level up one level. Of course, not all trees are that difficult, but it is very interesting how we're supposed to get to these high levels on these different perk trees, but we can't really level up using conventional means. It's pretty much the best way I found to level up is get good gear from a dungeon and deconstruct it instead of selling it. You don't get the money, but you do have a chance of getting materials and you get a lot of experience. While that is not my favorite way to level up something, it is certainly an option. Another improvement that one could have is when you're in a group with someone, actually being able to see your group member not just on your map, but maybe being able to see them across your map. For a lot of times when I was grouped up with my friend, we would lose each other pretty quickly because we just physically could not see each other anymore. We would be going on a quest and suddenly he would be gone, and like he thought I was right behind him and I thought he was right behind me, and we both ended up going our separate ways. Being able to find your group members more easily would definitely be an awesome improvement. And lastly, I feel like it would be beneficial to be able to see an entire skill tree. Now, I did see that there might be a different UI for PC as opposed to console, and I am playing this on a console, so that might be part of my limitation, but it would be interesting to actually be able to see all the trees, kind of like Skyrim, where you can go in and see all the different perks that you get for leveling up a specific tree, and being able to actually see all the buffs and the different ways you can take a specific skill. So that way I can actually figure out the way I want to build and not have to go spend gold every time I want to reset my class. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. That was pretty much the end of this video. I give ESO in 2018 a solid 8 out of 10. If you're coming into it as a new player after a couple years like I am, now is a really good time to start. You don't even have to purchase the DLC. I haven't purchased the DLC, any of the DLCs yet, and I'm having a lot of fun just playing the game as is. However, if you do want to get into the Somerset expansion, I highly recommend it because there is some great content that is locked behind that little tiny paywall, but it does provide a ton of content, and I've heard really good reviews for that. If you're looking to get into Elder Scrolls Online for the very first time, now is a great time to start. The player base is even bigger after the announcements at E3, and it's only going to continue to grow. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace out.